SailGP, the tennis, which I went to and loved, just to name a few. So welcome back everyone and to those online. Before we start, Councillor Hills is going to say a few words to recognise Anne Hartley, who sadly passed away over the summer. Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora, thank you, Mayor. I just want to acknowledge, and it will be a little bit long, but I'll try and keep it shorter. I want to acknowledge and remember the incredible life of Anne Hartley, a woman whose impact on community and our city and many people's lives cannot be overstated. Anne had a significant life of service. I can only cover a small part of that. She served as a Birkenhead City Councillor, the Mayor of Birkenhead, the first Mayor of North Shore City. She was a Labour MP for Northcote for 2 terms and the Deputy Speaker of the House. She was also an inaugural Auckland councillor for the North Shore Ward. She chaired the Regional Development and Operations Committee, which led a lot of the development and amalgamation of our community facilities and our libraries and other things we share now. Then she was a member of the Kaipātiki Local Board and its Deputy Chair, and was also honoured for her significant service to local government and the community by being appointed a Companion of the Queen's Service Order in 2022 New Year's Honours. Going back in time, I'd like to acknowledge that Anne's commitment to community began long before entering politics. In the 1970s, Anne was the first coordinator of the Birkdale Community House and convinced the council to fund their operations at the time, saying that council should not just fund sports, but also the community. A big focus for her was getting space and community development for women and kids, because she felt everything at that time was funded, tilted to activities that were largely taken up by men. She lobbied the council to fund the running of the Birkdale Community House. After that success, she decided to literally take up the middleman and run for council, and won. One of her big policies was securing $100,000 for the new pool at Birkdale College, which became a joint venture with Community Coordinator Jill Nerney, who's still the Community Coordinator. And there was a lot of political opposition at the time, but of course when it was built, everyone supported it. While running for mayor, she rallied against spending on a rates-funded mayoral car, telling the mayor to get the bus, and spoke about how more money was going on alcohol than community events. When she won as mayor, she increased the spending on community and reduced spending on those other things. She also ended up buying the land on the Birkdale House is on now, and also worked with the council to purchase 80 hectares of land at Cody Point, which is now a stunning nature reserve. As Mayor of North Shore, she made decisions that were controversial, but also are now proven so valuable, like leading the purchase of the houses on Takapuna Beach, which is now home to the big playground and the large reserve. She negotiated the purchase of Shepherd's Park and the sports fields and reserve there in Beach Haven, ensuring generations can come to access those beautiful green spaces. Her council, she was only the mayor of North Shore for the first term, but her council led the development of the North Shore Event Centre, which is now Event Finder, led the way with libraries open for 7 days, the Bruce Mason Centre, curbside recycling on the shore, the planning for the Albany Lakes and the North Harbour Stadium, and many more. They were also one of the first councils to have a Māori representative committee. I remember asking Anne if she regretted any of that because she was thrown out after 3 years, and she said she didn't regret any of it because obviously it had to be done despite it costing a lot and happened at pace. As a councillor on the Auckland Council, she worked behind the scenes to purchase other parks such as 136 Birkdale Road and worked alongside local leaders throughout her time to create the multi-agency strategic approach team with the government at the time, working with youth leaders and police to reduce youth crime. These are just some of the examples of Anne's ability to see the needs in her community and fight for change and make things happen. On a personal note, Anne was instrumental to my own political journey. She encouraged me to originally stand for election with her team, including Chris and Lindsay Ann and others, Kay. And of course, she was invaluable in shaping my journey to where I am today. Sorry for those of you who regret that decision, but I'm here. It's impossible to count how many people Anne helped or how many policies and decisions she'd helped push across the line. So many people have shared with me how Anne went out of her way to help them to support their cause on big things and small. Anne leaves behind a legacy of service and courage which will live on the community she helped shape and the policies she fought for, and in the many lives she influenced and touched, including my own. Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that acknowledgement of the passing of Anne Hartley. Just in terms of process today, we have on your agendas item C1 about the quarterly performance report, which was confidential when we published the agenda. These reports have now been released to the NZX this morning, so are no longer confidential. Phil and the team are working on how to adjust the timing so we don't get this complication again. So item C1 will be immediately following item 8 in the open. Councillor Fletcher, do you want to say something about John Duncan as well? They're dropping like flies at the moment.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. And perhaps it might be better from our CEO, Phil Wilson, but I just want to acknowledge the passing very unexpectedly of John Duncan. He was a faithful servant to this council, and I think a real leader within the Treasury team, and we are all shocked and saddened by his death and would wish to convey to his family our deep commiserations and condolences, but also acknowledge the valuable contribution that he has made to Auckland. But may I hand over to Phil to speak more formally?
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Yes, John sadly passed last weekend, suddenly. He was at various times a council staff member, but more frequently a consultant and contractor and ally to the organisation. As Councillor Fletcher said, he made an important contribution to, I suppose, Council's financial strategy, investment matters, and most certainly the Treasury function within Council. Is also to be acknowledged that John made an important contribution to Auckland and nationally in other roles, most particularly in the Housing New Zealand and Koinga Order space. So his wings were spread far and wide in terms of influence, and he will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we'll step forward into declarations of interest. Are there any people who wanted to say anything? No, none so far. Confirmation of the minutes. Will anyone move and second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Hills. In favour? Aye. Contrary? No. Carried. Thank you. We have had an application for public input from John Carapiet, Auckland GE Free Coalition Ratepayers Against Socialised Risk. That has been referred to the Policy and Planning Committee as it's more suitable a place to hear it than here. And so I'll look forward to having that dealt with by Councillors Hills and Dalton. Local board input. There was one request received from the Waitemata Local Board, and Alan Matson, on behalf of the local board, wishes to speak to us as if he's here. Alan Matson, are you present? Yes, you can come to the front and talk to us about the St James restoration, which is item 15. You've got 5 minutes and your time starts now.
Thank you for having me, and sorry for the late request. Wasn't aware it was on the agenda. It's been pushed along for some time now, and we're very pleased to see it coming to fruition. The report goes through a lot of historical background about how this has evolved. From the local board's perspective, it's in our local board plan. It was in fact, our first local board plan. It's been too long coming. We've got that one, just one overhead, if that could be kept with the minutes, that would be good. Our understanding is that the commitment has been made, and so we look forward to the Mayor's great energies towards getting the job finished. And so there's nothing really to add to it other than to add the community support for this. In terms of the clause 98 in your report about the tower. There's an interesting situation there, and it is a bit of an eyesore. As a board, we look forward to some of the reorganisation of the CCOs, AT and Eki Panuku in particular, in making that project work, because it's going to take all-round collaboration to do so. So things like loading things into the stage, which requires that a truck comes round into Lawn Street, not being able to go out into Wellesley Street on very rare occasions so that a bus can come through. Let's just get a bollard and make that work. There's a whole lot of things to make work. In terms of the tower, I understand that could proceed. And there are some interesting possibilities in what might connect Queen Street to Lawn Street in the interim. It's a big wasteland owned by Reliance. One could look at it as a city park in the interim. It wouldn't take much to get that safe and workable as a space for a couple of years. So I encourage Council to confirm this funding on behalf of the board, and if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions of this gentleman?
Yes.
Councillor Darby, please.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for coming in and advocating for this. Yeah, it has been a little bit laboured, probably some good reasons there too. Just in terms of the funding agreement, it's a significant amount of public grant money, both government, they can handle their details, we handle ours. Like you probably know, I support this project, but in terms of the funding agreement, do you think it is important that in the funding agreement the council has very clear visibility over the future spend and also the historic spend on an open book process, so that we can actually see where the public money and the private money in partnership is actually going? One of the things that I have learned from a grant to Eden Park Trust Board is you really do need that visibility. You need that accountability to walk into. So my question to you is, and maybe this is outside the area of your interest, but possibly in your local board interest, do you think we need to, in that funding agreement, to make it very, very clear that there needs to be absolute visibility over the future spend and the historic spend of the $15 million by the developer?
I think doing things retrospectively is problematic. I presume that council and its lawyers have properly executed the deal, and that everything that we should provide for is provided for. As far as the ongoing expense, I don't believe this is funding for operational expenditure, and so those details should already be to hand. I'm not aware that they are confidential, but these business cases have been around for a decade and a half now, so anything that should be released, I presume, would have been released by now.
Okay, leave it there.
Good point, though.
I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
there is some reluctance to spend such a large amount, but in the context of bang for your dollar, you're getting the private investor plus government and their dollars added to your dollars. So you're getting 3 for 1. So I think it's a good deal. And notwithstanding that Your Worship did feel that it was a bonfire of money into that, I hope it's not. I think that it's well supported by the community.
Mayor, I'll leave it there and we'll discuss the open book requirement at the item.
I think that's a good question and a good answer, and thank you very much, Alan, for presenting. Okay, move and second to receive that. Leone and Fletcher, thank you very much. All those in favour of receiving it, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you. It's been received. Extraordinary items. There's no known extraordinary items. Item 7 is the status update from the governing body, which as an information one, I'm happy to move that we receive that, and it will be seconded by Councillor Baker. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary carried. We're going to item 8.